Hello and welcome back to episode number 4 of Philosophy in Music and Spirituality. Today we're going to talk about your skills, right? And how your skills are aligned with your talents and your gifts, right? So if you have been following along for the past 3 or 4 weeks, we were talking about your identity in the first video, what forms the identity, which is a thing that actually kind of gives you purpose in life, and how your gifts, right, which are at the bottom of that pyramid, are tied into your talents, which are at the second part of that pyramid, and how that actually is supposed to help you to develop the skills at the very top of that pyramid, and how your skills and actually in alignment with your talents and your gifts can actually lead to more fulfillment and actually lead to more purpose in your life, right? So today we're going to talk about your skills. So here's the thing that I like to talk about, and I like to break down skills in particular because sometimes we mistake skills for talents and we mistake a skill for even a gift, right? I'll give you an example of myself and what I went through and the mistake that I made in picking my purpose, right? And I made this mistake a couple of times actually, just for good measure, because I wasn't really sure in the beginning, right? So I've always been a creative person, right? I think creative intelligence is one of my talents, right? So if you remember the video that we spoke about last week when I spoke about our talents, creativity is actually a talent for me. It's one of my talents, but it actually is in line with my gifts, right? Now I'll go back really briefly and say my gifts, to give you a clue, are actually in teaching, in helping, and in healing and coaching. So throughout my life, throughout my career, I've always found that I enjoyed teaching the most. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to teach my friends how to play certain sports if they couldn't play it. And even when I was in school, someone would ask me how to do something, I would be open to say, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, and I'd be patient. And although I didn't know it as a kid, I sort of grew into that. And the more I sort of got older and got into work, I then realized that I was actually pretty cut out to help people in this way. So I've always worked in those fields. But moving forward, right, I had the talent of creativity, right? So my creativity is one of my talents, right? The reason why I say it's a talent, not a gift, is because if I take my creativity, I can use that in many different parts of life, whether that's in art, whether that's in music, whether that's in science, whether that's in reading and writing. I can take that creativity and apply it in many different areas. So my creativity isn't actually a gift. It's a thing that actually helps me to grasp something in a creative way and express myself creatively in a very intuitive way, right? So if you remember we spoke about last week when we spoke about talents, we spoke about the different types of talents. And one talent that we spoke about is kinesthetic intelligence, right? So kinesthetic intelligence is basically an individual or someone who has the ability to actually understand how their body works and to move their body in a specific way that allows them to be right in sync. For example, someone who just learns how to dance really quickly, somebody who can pick up a racket or a bat or a ball and can just kick it or throw it really easily without being taught how to do that. Like they have kinesthetic intelligence. They understand how to move their body in sync and everything just kind of flows, right? So I have creative intelligence. For the longest time growing up as a kid, I knew that, whatever I do in life, I have to be creative, right? So I went through the first portion of my life believing that art was the thing that I have to do, right? Art was the thing that would make me fulfilled, and that would be my purpose in life. So if I just drew and drew and drew, I'll be fulfilled. But guess what happened? Right? I actually started to draw, and I remember when I started to get paid for painting and drawing, and man, that really sucked. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but I really hated it. I really did not enjoy being paid to paint. And I thought, wow, this is the thing that I really love to do. But if I don't enjoy getting paid to do this, in other words, someone is now telling me, hey, paint this, I must not really be fulfilling my purpose here. It doesn't make sense. What was wrong here? And here's the thing, right? The clue is that art was simply a skill. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't my talent even, but it was a skill, right? So I used my talent of creativity to practice the skill of drawing and painting and actually learned how to do that skill. I learned how to do art. But because art wasn't tied into my gift, right? My gift, which is the teaching, the coaching, and the helping in that sense, it didn't fulfill me because I was like, well, if I'm drawing and I'm painting, I'm only doing it for myself. I'm doing it for one other person. I don't find much fulfillment in that. So I really didn't enjoy that, but it was a skill that I was very, very good at. So after doing this for the first time, I thought, okay, well, art isn't the thing, obviously. I have been doing art since I could hold a pen, since I was like 5 years old. And I did that all the way until I was in my late teens, right? And I was like, well, man, if this is not it, then what is it? So I went through a mini depression actually, because I always thought that, man, whatever I do, it's going to be involved with visual arts. And I went through a mini depression where I was like, I don't really know now what my purpose is. I don't understand. I'm very good at this. I'm so good at this that people acknowledge and say that I'm so good at this. Everyone who sees my artwork is like, yo, you should be making money with this. Why aren't you making money with this? But what they don't understand is that that's not my purpose. That's not fulfilling to me to make art. So mini depression, going through that, then finding music, right? And I'm like, oh, music is great. Music is a quicker expression. Music is just, I just pick up an instrument or I just start to sing, and all of a sudden I feel happy and joyous and I feel fulfilled. Great. Let me just start making music. And I'm not going to make music with any intention of making money. I just started making music because I just loved it. I was like, this is a great expression. But because of my creative intelligence, guess what happened? I learned how to make music quite intuitively, quite easily. And before I knew it, I was making music that was really quite good. And people would hear my music and go, hey, your music is so good, you should take this seriously, man. You are really good at this stuff. Take it seriously, you could go places, man. You're better than so many other people that were listening to you out there. And I was like, really? Oh, okay, well, if you guys are saying it, then I must be on to something, right? And remember what I said about a gift or a talent, guys? It's something that not only you're good at, but it's something that other people say you're good at, right? It's not enough to just say, I'm good at this. You actually have to have people who validate the thing that you're trying to do and say, you're good at this, and why don't you go for it? So, here we go. The second try again. I'm going for music now. I'm thinking music must be my purpose because I enjoy it. I could make music for hours. I spent about the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years making music from my early 20s into my late 20s. Went all the way up to making a high quality music video and learned that process. And I did the mixing and mastering on the track, and I produced it myself. I wrote it myself. I performed it. I enjoyed that process so much. Only for me to start releasing my music, and then I went, oh, well, okay, I don't really enjoy performing. Right? I don't really enjoy singing live. Well, let me picture the best case scenario here. Best case scenario is I make my music really well. People notice it and people call me to tours and events and they ask me to perform it. I don't really enjoy that. Oh, I have to go on tour. Now I'm away from my family. Now I have to be in this situation where I'm on the road. I'm not really enjoying performing anyway. Why would I want to do that, right? Now, for anyone who's into music, we all know that the best way to make money from your music is through live events, right? Because you can sell hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of tickets. That is ultimately the best way for you to recoup money. Of course, you have merchandising, and to a much, much smaller extent, you have music streaming, but that only matters if you're doing really hundreds of millions of streams, right? But predominantly, you're going to make a career from your music. You're going to have to be performing live. So I was like, I don't enjoy performing live. That's not me. Again, crisis moment, right? Identity crisis moment. And I got to that point and I'm like, man, I don't get it. Like, I don't really want to be successful in this arena. What am I missing here? I'm so good at this. But at the same time, I can't picture myself getting paid for this. I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life. So mini depression number 2. And I was like, I don't really quite understand what's going to have to happen here. Now, the fortunate thing is that at this point, I was in my mid to late 20s. And I had sort of had the conception of something called 7th century music, right? And 7th century music was the thing that I was gonna build essentially to help artists, right? Because at this point, I was beginning to understand that my gifts were in helping others, in coaching, in teaching others. And 7th century media group is what it was at the time, was meant to do that. It was meant to help artists to get to a better place. Now that I found absolutely fulfilling. And I found that when I thought about that, and I thought about that process of actually building something that would help artists and something that I would use to help artists, I got way more excited about that. And so I started to build 7th century music. Long story short, fast forward about 5 or 6, 7 years later, I was still building it, learning a lot of things, speaking to artists, and we're at that point now where we launched the actual product, the beta version, and it's ready to test, right? And I'm like, it's great. We've made a first version of it, which was released in 2019. That didn't work so well. We learned a lot from that, and we rebuilt it with a better team, and we built the newer version, which you can see right here, right? So after I built that second version, man, I was like, cool. I'm still loving this. After 7 years, I'm still enjoying it. And I actually thought about a way in which 7th century music could help artists through the learning hub that we created, which is ultimately an educational tool, right? So I'm continuing now to fulfill my gift in that. I'm using my talents for creativity to fulfill that gift that I ultimately have, which is to teach and to help people. So I just told you that whole story to talk about a couple of things, to come back to the aspect of how we can mistake a skill for being our purpose, right? I was very skilled at art, painting and drawing. I still am, of course, right? But ultimately, it wasn't my purpose. I was very skilled at making music, producing music, mixing and engineering music, and even singing, right? But ultimately, that had nothing to do with my purpose, right? So I had to kind of come back to the version of myself who, if you remember what I spoke about, you have to go back to the version of yourself as a child who you knew and who you asked the question, what do you really want to do? What do you really want to pursue? And at that point, I was able to come back to that question of, see, what have you always done in your life that you know is consistent, that you know you'd be happy to do for the rest of your life, and that is helping, healing, teaching others to grow and to find fulfillment in their own lives, right? So that was a bit of a long story, but let's talk about your skills, right? Let's talk about how people, you and I included, can often make the mistake of assuming that because we have a certain skill that we're very proficient at, that we're very good at, that we should actually use that skill to live a fulfilling life. And what we often find is that we go into a career, something that we were interested in, that we're curious about enough to actually go into a career into, and then you find that it's actually not that fulfilling at all. You don't really enjoy it at all. In fact, you hate it, right? I've had friends who have gone into banking because they were interested in finance at some point in their lives, maybe growing up, and they decided, you know what, I completely hate this. I don't even enjoy it. I'm completely drained, and I'm going to leave this job, this well-paying job. And they decided to leave that well-paying job and go do something completely different, right? I had one friend who left a banking job, a very comfortable, financially rewarding, well-paying job in the city center, and is now doing coaching, and he loves that and is so fulfilled by that. In fact, my uncle studied medicine and was almost in the 5th or 6th year when he decided, you know what, I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life. Switched lanes completely and went into finance and banking, right? So sometimes you have to go through a process of really experiencing that thing, right? Remember what we talked about last week about, you know, your talents, right? Your talents are the thing that are supposed to help you find the skill that you then narrow into, that you zone into, and you go, this is the thing for me, right? So your talents are supposed to be understood a little bit more so you can actually use those talents to better yourself at a certain skill. So let's work backwards a little bit and let's go, if I understand my gift, right? You have to understand your gift. If I understand my gift and at the core of myself, I ask myself the question, what really is my gift? What am I meant to do on this earth? Once I understand that gift, then I can go, okay, cool. I'm meant to maybe lead. I have a great desire to lead people in the right way because I have always been a leader. I've always felt like I've always wanted to be in front of people and helping people in that way. Okay, cool. If I'm a leader, then what talents do I have, right? To help me to get on that stage, to help me to get on that ladder, to get to that next step. Okay, maybe I'm a good speaker. I'm very organized. I'm also hardworking. I'm conscientious, right? There's all these little things that form your talents, right? These things are the tools that are meant to help you to develop yourself and to fulfill your gift, right? So now that you understand those talents, right? The ability to speak very well, the ability to organize very well, maybe the ability to actually be conscientious and to take people's opinions from different people and be objective, right? That's actually a talent. That's something that doesn't come naturally to everyone. If you can do that very thing and use those talents, and then you think to yourself, what is the skill that I can use now, that I can develop with all these talents, the speaking ability, you know, the organizational ability, the objectivity that I have to be able to listen to different arguments and take that on board. How can I use those talents, right? In what field should I use them? Should I use them maybe as a writer? Maybe I could be a political writer. Maybe I could write books and these books will educate people. Maybe I could be a politician, right? That would be the most obvious thing. If we're talking about leadership, right? We're talking about how you'll be able to go from a position of no influence to a position of influence. So you're having to then chart the best course for yourself. Now, if you're thinking about picking a skill, and this is what I've personally learned that is a good way for me to select the skill that I want to pursue, is I have to ask myself the question, how long could I do this for? You know, could I do this for the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years if I needed to? Could I do it? And that would be the first question I'd ask myself. Could I see myself doing this for the next 20 years if nothing changes? Now, that's obviously everything changes, life changes, things are always moving forward. Hopefully, you're always growing and changing as well. And you might find yourself being in another different position in 10 years that you might need to move on to. But still, the point is, you must pick something that you know that will lead to a better outcome in the future. That would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is, how does it actually work in a real-time, real-world environment, right? Does it actually pay you enough money, right? Does it actually put you in a position where you can actually be independent in yourself, that you can actually be someone that's contributing to society and not just taking from society, right? Are you going to be the leader that actually helps people and actually grows something, grows a community, and actually builds something with other people? Or are you going to be the kind of leader that's going to be scamming people and that has to do all kinds of dodgy stuff, right? So these are the things that you now have to think about and go, if I'm picking a skill, how is this skill gonna work out for me? One great example I like to give is the example of like Roger Federer. Roger Federer is a very talented athlete, right? He's someone who I'd say his kinesthetic intelligence is extremely high, right? So I say that because Roger Federer plays not just tennis very well, he plays golf very well. I've also heard that he plays squash very well, and he also plays football very well. Now, the truth is Roger Federer could have picked a number of sports, could have picked any sport and just gone, you know what, I'm going to pick football, or you know what, I'm going to pick golf instead. But instead of picking these two different skills, he picked tennis, right, for whatever reason. And it could have been a calculated choice to say, you know what, football is a very oversaturated market. I don't want to go in there because, well, the risk of injury is high, or whatever the case is. Maybe I don't have access to the certain training facilities, so I can't choose football. Or maybe golf is a sport where maybe only a small very percentage of people can only become the top percent. You know, there's many things you can talk about. For whatever reason, he might have simply chosen tennis because he simply enjoyed it, right? He chose tennis, which not only wasn't financially, puts him on the big stage, makes him become an influencer. And I don't know Roger Federer, but I'm convinced that he must have, at some point, someone around him or himself and people around him must have looked at that and gone, well, instead of focusing ourselves and doing football or golf or squash even, let's go for tennis, right? And here's another key thing, right? A key thing, and I don't want you to miss this, is that you can be skilled at 4 or 5 different things, but you can only be an expert and a master in one of those things. It's very crucial that you don't get distracted, that you don't think to yourself, oh, I'm so good at the football, or I'm so good at the golf, and I'm so good at the tennis, that I'm gonna try and develop all these things at the same time and then just see which one works out. That's not the way to do it, right? So I could have done the same thing, by the way. I could have gone, whoa, I am so good at art, I'm so good at music, I'm so good at mixing and engineering. Now I'm gonna try and do all these things at the same time and then just see which one works. Now that would not work. Why wouldn't that work? Because I'm giving 20 to 30% to this, I'm giving another 30% to this, and maybe I'll give another 30% to this as well. Now, if I'm doing that, my attention is distracted, right? And now if there's somebody who is far less talented than I am, but they have their 90 to 100% focus on this one skill that they're trying to maximize themselves in, they will beat me every single time, every single day of the week, right? Because while I'm spending 30%, 30%, 30% here, taking maybe 5 to 10 years to get even halfway there, right? This person is doing 100%, and they're doing 100% for 3 years. And in 3 years, they've tripled where I could be in 10 years, where I might never even get to, because I'm still 30%, 30%, 30%, right? So it's very important that you really zone in, and at some point you have to do this. You just have to kind of pick one thing and go, just pick one thing. Just pick one thing. Now, you might think this is a scary thing. I don't want to just pick one thing, T, and then I'm stuck with this one thing for the rest of my life. Now, here's what I'll say. If you've taken the time to understand yourself, to go through your own meditative process of maybe prayer or meditation or whatever you want to call it, where you then begin to understand your gifts yourself, and after you understand your gifts, then you go through the process of actually kind of zoning in and honing in your talents and saying, oh, these are the talents that I'm good at. That whatever skill you pick, right? Whatever skill you pick, you are probably going to have a higher chance of achieving in that skill. That's depending on whether you've chosen it for the right reasons. So again, I would say take the time to really sit down with yourself and be quiet and just kind of meditate and think on the things that you really want to fulfill in life, and the way that it contributes and helps other people, because I believe that true fulfillment really ultimately comes from helping other people. So you might say to yourself, well, how does Roger Federer help people? You know, he's rich, right? But Roger Federer actually provides entertainment, right? I love Roger Federer. He's probably one of my favorite tennis players, if not my favorite tennis player. He just plays the game in such a brilliant way. Just to watch him play is a great pleasure. To watch him compete in such a way is something of an honor almost, right? So you might be thinking to yourself, well, T, I'm a musician, I'm an artist. How do I help or serve others? Well, listen, if we didn't have art, if we couldn't admire art, the films that we watch, the music that we listen to on a daily basis that puts you in another world, right? That takes you from this physical world and whatever you're experiencing and whatever you're going through and puts you in another realm completely, right? That is valuable. I've got so many musicians that I can tell you I had listened to at a time when I was down and maybe experiencing certain things in my life. And I heard this music and I was like, man, thank God for this music, because it just took me out of a point of sadness. Thank God for this music because it just made me happy, right? Now, I don't mean to make this sound sad, because I don't think it's a sad thing at all. But what I'm saying is, if you're an artist, I don't want you to undersell or undervalue your gift to this world. I don't want you to undersell or undervalue what you're here to give to this world. So think about your skills. Think about how you can help others with your skill. You may think it's a selfish thing. You may think, it's something that's just for me, right? If I'm making art, if I'm making music, it's just for me. But you'll be surprised that if it's part of your gift, that it would minister to people in a way that you can't possibly even comprehend. And you'll be surprised. You'll be like, wow, I can't believe this. People are saying my music really makes them happy. People are saying my music actually brings them joy. People are saying that they can't wait to see me live in concert, but I'm just doing the thing that I'm meant to do. So I'm going to say that if you're an artist, if you are trying to figure out, maybe you have different skills. Maybe you're good at producing, maybe you're good at singing, maybe you're good at engineering music, maybe you're good at several different instruments, and you're thinking to yourself, should I be an instrumentalist that plays the guitar or the piano, or should I focus my energy on being a singer, or should I do both? Whatever it is you're going to do, go for it fully, and then only by doing that do you see truly what rewards you can get from that. And trust me, when you start doing the thing that you're meant to do, right, fulfilling your gifts, using your talents and using your skills to fulfill your ultimate purpose, you will feel ultimate fulfillment, and that is all that you can ask for, and other people will thank you for it as well. So I hope you enjoyed this chat. I certainly have enjoyed kind of this mini series of identity and looking at your gifts, talents, and skills. It's something that I hope I'm going to break down even more in detail, talking about what exactly are gifts, what exactly are talents, what exactly do skills look like. I mean, skills are probably the simplest thing to break down, but the talents can be confusing, and so can the gifts be. Now, if you're a musician or artist or a singer, songwriter, producer, I invite you to check out 7th Century Music. We have a learning hub where we go through like 15 different videos where we talk about your identity, where we talk about things like your mindset when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to selling your music, when it comes to actually how you approach your fans, the strategies that are involved with actually marketing your music, the strategies and the tools that we have built to help you to market, distribute, and also sort of monetize your music, right? Because that's very important. If you're doing the thing that you believe that you're meant to do in life, then I believe that you should be rewarded for that. And I don't want you to rob the world of your gift, right? So the world should be happy to receive a gift. And I think that artists that enrich the world should also be rewarded for that. So we're here to help you to not only distribute your music, to market your music, and to monetize your music. Listen, if you're not even sure whether you want to do any of those things, whether you want to distribute or market your music, if you're not sure about making money with your music, I'd just say you can still use the platform, and then it can really guide you and tell you what really is your strength. Before you know it, you might find that you might think that your music isn't good enough. You might think that your music doesn't have a huge fan base. But you'll be surprised, right? And you'll be surprised when you put your music out there, how much it could touch people and how much people are actually willing to pay for it, if they're willing to pay for it, if that's something that you want. So check out the Learning Hub in the link below here. The Learning Hub is completely free for everyone to check out. Then you can also go and upload your music on 7th Century Music. We are also here to help you out in our private community where we can chat and speak together as well. So I hope to meet you there. I hope to meet you inside our private community, and we'll talk some more. I will continue to release more videos on this kind of subject, on philosophy of music. We'll talk more about monetizing your purpose in the next couple of weeks as well, so we can really zone in and hone in on how you can be the best version of yourself while actually making money, because this world is a tough world and we do have to live in this 3D world, right? But as I say with everything in philosophy, music, and spirituality, everyone is here for a purpose. We're here to fulfill each other's purpose. We're here to support each other as well as to be service to one another. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sticking around. This has been a long video, but thank you for sticking around and being here with me. I look forward to speaking to you again next week. All right, I'll see you soon. Take care. Love you as always. Bye-bye.